So, all right. Scott, hello and welcome to the Power Within You podcast. It's really lovely to have you here today with me. So thanks for joining me. Do you know what? Like, I just want to explain to listeners that I was perusing The Guardian probably a couple of months ago, and your article came up about people making a difference. I think it's part of Guardian Angels, basically. And I was just like, this is so much needed. So I just wanted to kind of ask you to kind of intro as to what you do and why this came about, basically. So maybe we can start with your own mental health journey. So tell me more about, your journey and how you came to this place.
Yeah, it's probably around 10 years ago that it started off with the birth of my eldest, and then a relationship breakdown shortly after. And over the years, contact proved quite difficult, in and out of the court system, which is really difficult if you've been through it, and just getting knockbacks and then being told you're something you're not constantly, and you start believing it, and eventually it just takes little knocks out of you all the time, all these little things, and then it builded up to just sort of like just before what I felt was like a breakdown. I think it was going to be that I sort of like lost my work and stuff like that, and financial problems, and I started binging on things and stuff like that, and it's just a bit of a slippery slope. But then I got to a point where I sort of had that light moment where I said I needed some support, I needed some help. I couldn't just keep functioning like this. So I reached out to the NHS, got some support from those guys. I got some CBT therapy from them, which was about 8 to 10 weeks, I think the sessions were, so one session a week. And what I took away from those sessions was talking to somebody that I didn't know removed that fear of judgment, which is a massive thing for people to open up and talk. I think that's half of the issues we have with talking in terms of like family members and friends is, what would they think about me if I told them this? But yeah, so I took that away from it. It wasn't the CBT itself I felt would help for me personally. It is an amazing thing, but it was more the no judgment thing for me. Meeting up with someone.
It's so important, isn't it? Like having that no judgment, I think. But did you ever have therapy? Was that your first kind of route into CBT or therapy itself?
Yeah, that was the first ever time I haven't done it, to be fair. Because before that, I was one of these sort of men that said I'll never need anything like this. So like that's for a different type of person. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. What type of person did you think it would be for? I
think this is half of the issue that I'm dealing with now in terms of getting people onto my walks. I think there's still such a big stigma attached to men and mental health, those two things together, and I think sort of looking more into it and actually seeing it from different angles is similar to sort of autism. I guess there's a massive spectrum to it. There's ones that function really, really well on a day-to-day, and there's ones that it's very visible when you see it and you need specialist support. What I'm trying to deal with is those at the very bottom end of it, where it's you feel you look like you don't need it, you feel like you don't need it, but having constant bad days at work, having problems at home constantly, these are things that you should talk about and normalise and try and figure out how to deal with it rather than bottling everything up. So I was one of them ones at that end of it where I thought, this is for someone that needs to be, I don't know, taken away in some sort of straitjacket or something like that. Is that end there? I think that's half an issue now as well. I think people still associate mental health with that far end of the spectrum where you need real specialist support or put in hospital or something like that. Do you know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah, we kind of leave things to the extreme sometimes, isn't it? Like we kind of like go, we know with our gut something's wrong, but like you say, bottle it up, or we don't perhaps like deal with it. But so as you were going towards, CBT and going through, obviously, the issues in your family and what you had to go through financially, what were the sort of red flags that you're seeing? Like, were things manifesting sort of physically and mentally for you? Like, what was it that you were feeling?
Yeah, I don't know, it's a bit of a weird feeling actually. It's sort of like an out of body experience, I guess, to a certain degree. I could just sort of see I was physically wherever I was, but mentally, spiritually, whatever you may call it, I wasn't there. Do you know what I mean? Like I was just drifting away of it, and I'm very much a person that when one thing happens that isn't good or one thing happens bad against me, it's like and then everything just goes bad after that. So
Yeah.
so yeah, I dramatise quite a lot, but obviously I've sort of trained myself to a certain degree to not feel like that anymore and open up a lot more so that doesn't build up. But yeah, it actually felt like a physical weight on my shoulders as well, which is weird. So so it was a couple of different things that looking back at it, like at the time I didn't realise it. But yeah, looking back at it now, yeah, there was very much a physical feeling of a weight pushing you down and sort of a weird out of body experience of just like you're mentally and physically tired. Just the constant thing that's going on in your mind, do you know what I mean? And you're not making any inroads on it, especially when it's out of your control as well, which is another big thing that I've worked on, that if it's out of my control, I can't do anything about it. But previously it was like, well, why can't I do it? Well, it's not in your control, so... Yeah.
Absolutely. It's one of those, it's hard, isn't it? Because like you're feeling those things and it gets to the point where it gets really bad. Then you're like, okay, now I need some help. Because you were saying that it felt like you were going to break down. So what was that sort of, was that breakdown feeling that you couldn't do anything else in your life? Like a feeling of like just not be able to do anything and just stay still and...
Yeah. It's just a weird feeling because I've never had that before, because obviously I bottled it up for so many years, and I used to get it from my friends as well, like, I can't believe you're acting the way you are, like nothing's going on, you're not being able to see your kids, you know what I mean, you're losing work, but they didn't know financial stuff, that was all in the background, but like they looked at it and they would have dealt with it a different way, but it was, I didn't get to the point of like feeling suicidal thoughts. It did get to a point of where I felt like I was better off not here, but how I would have manifested that, I'm unsure at the moment. It was very much a run away from the problem feeling. So maybe pack my bags and leave and just disappear, or maybe something else. I'm unsure of how it is because I've never had that before, and that was quite a weird feeling. But yeah, no, I'm glad for the support I've had since. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you're mentioning that obviously you went through what you went through, needs to have a breakdown. You spoke to the NHS, they provided CBT, and you were saying that actually is more the non-judgement than the CBT itself that helped. And I think some people need different therapists. It's, you know what I mean? It's like, it's one of those things, but can you describe what the process was like for you for CBT? Like for someone wanting to kind of explore a bit further, what is it that you do?
I'm trying to remember it actually, but yeah, the stuff we did do, what they try and do, I'll probably be corrected for this, but what I've seen they do, and in my case, they basically try and do exercises in the room. So they might write stuff on the board, and you visualise what they're trying to tell you basically, and just ways that you can think of things differently. And sometimes they'll take some stuff home, like sort of like homework, I guess, to a certain degree.
Yeah.
So just trying to rejig your brain really and retrain it to think a bit more positive. But yeah, it wasn't like I was just sort of blanked over that part of the session. It was more the chat for myself. But yeah, that's what they've done. But I'll probably be corrected for that. But
oh no, everyone has their own different experiences with it, don't they? Really?
Yeah, I think it was very much like it was half and half session. It was talking on a one-to-one basis, and then obviously the stuff that was on the board and stuff like that they writ up, so I made it visual for you to try and work it out.
Yeah, and I think when you are able to talk it through, just things start making a bit more sense because you have someone there. And I know that it's particularly difficult for men to open up about how they're feeling, especially in male groups as well, to think about how they're feeling. Why do you think there's such a difference between? Why do you think men don't feel comfortable opening up about their mental health issues?
It's a tough one. The one I've sort of come to the conclusion is I think it's very generational. I think this is something that's passed down from father to son to granddad to uncle, whatever it may be.
Generations, right?
Yeah, I think it's generations of just men that have never opened up, and they've always been the traditional breadwinner or the man that's meant to be strong within the family. And I think they burden themselves so much with that they just get to a point of where opening up isn't an option for them. Do you know what I mean? Although it is, but their son sees that, and then he might show some emotions, and then the dad's like, "Oh, grow up, grow a pair, liven up. What's the matter with you?" As soon as you knock them down at an early age, then they're gonna go into their shell and they won't open up no more. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's so important how you bring your kids up now to say, look, yeah, it's all right to cry, it's all right to feel all different emotions. You can't be happy all the time. Do you know what I mean? But it's healthy just to release as that happens, so we don't build it up. But I think it's definitely generational is the biggest thing, I think.
Do you know what? I just don't think, and I've said this sort of before, but I don't think we talk about our emotions enough at home, at school, at work, whatever it is. Because like I know like of like schools, for example, I think mainly in the US, that, you know, when the child goes into a classroom, they'll have a picture of like happy, sad, angry, worried, you know, and they'll mark where they are, so they don't have to say anything. But if they're putting a worried face or a sad face, then the teacher's got a talking point with them as well. They're having to verbalise it. And I think we just don't do enough of that, you know, with our kids as well. You know, to say it's all right to feel a certain way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think like in terms of like educational side of it and bringing the things into schools and a lot of prevention stuff, I think we're still quite behind on it. I think like definitely the past sort of 10 years, the conversation has been generated a lot more sort of high profile people that people might look up to have come out and admitted to having struggled in the past, which is great in terms of like opening up the conversation. But in terms of stuff with kids, I think it's definitely something that we need a lot more work on, because you'd rather have great things like what we're doing, where if you are in a bad place, come down. But what about if we create a generation of young people that are coming through that open up and be honest about how they feel, and then you don't need such a pressure on the NHS and other services? You know what I mean?
Absolutely, you're so spot on, and that's the thing, isn't it? It's just that it's that education, and it does start at school. But I think you're right. I mean, so do you as a community sports coach, which is your day role, do you try to implement any stuff that you're seeing, or try to rally them and kind of talk to them? I know it's a movement thing, obviously being a sports coach, but do you try to kind of implement anything else that can help them?
Well, to be fair, like I think obviously knowing what I've been through and stuff like that, I do. Sometimes we generate a little bit of a conversation around how you're doing and stuff like that, but it's still quite difficult, because what you find is even at that age there, it's so ingrained in their head not to open up or like, I'm alright, there's nothing wrong with me. But when you talk to on a one-to-one basis, that's when you get the real person. So obviously with time, it's quite difficult. But I've had a few conversations with some young people in the past where you ask them the question in a group environment and on their own, and it's two completely different answers. And I think even that, is that because the school's not doing enough for it, or is that because of the parents not allowed to open up? I don't know, it's a multiple reasons, potentially.
It's hard, isn't it? I remember having lunch with my nephew, who's 16, and his friend, who's also 16. And I was talking to them about mental health. It's really difficult. It's an awkward conversation. They're such great kids. They're so amazingly, like, you know, open and willing to chat and stuff. But they were like, we can't talk about this stuff in front of our friends. They think we're going to be weird. And these are 16-year-olds, right? And just like, and they are. I know how they've been raised really well, but they still have the peer group pressure, right? I think the girls are a bit more open, maybe, but the boys definitely still shut down. You know, there's no way that none of them are going through something. They must be going through something. Do you know what I mean? But they just they don't want to speak about it still. No, it's crazy. You still think about, like, how do you get it? Like you said, it's a different conversation. Find themselves in a different conversation when they're in their peer groups. It's nuts, isn't it? Yeah,
I think it's just about them seeing it normalised. Like you say, obviously with young girls talking openly, I think they see that. They see that from their mum and their aunt and their friends when they go out to a coffee morning. They can see them chatting about everything and they can hear it.
It's true.
But when a boy goes out with his dad or whatever, he just sees his dad sitting down watching the football indoors, not saying a word for hours, and then, or when he's out with his mates, not talking about anything that's important. But they generalise that conversation. Do you know what I mean? Oh yeah, let's talk about football or whatever, which is absolutely fine. But I've never been to football once and someone said to me, Scott, I'm having a really bad time at the minute. Do you know what I mean? Or down the pub. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, people that I know who, if I go out with on a social occasion and anything like that, they're probably a bit more open to talk to me about things, because obviously they know what I'm doing. But in terms of like their normal friend groups, they've even said that they probably wouldn't say anything to them, which is odd.
I think it's really
weird now. Do you know what I mean? But I
now that you're talking about it so much.
But I was there myself. Like I know where they're coming from. But I feel a lot more freer now that I've opened up and
it's a beautiful thing, man.
I love talking to people and I love hearing their stories and things like that. Beforehand, I was really, really close to a really small group of friends, and I wouldn't open up to other people. I weren't really interested in making new mates or having conversations with people. But in hindsight, looking back at it, thinking if I'd never met all these lads that I'm talking to now, I'd have missed on some amazing stories and some great friends for life.
Yeah, it's incredible, man, what you're doing, and we'll get onto that for sure. I wanted to ask though, before we do, about when you finished CBT. So how long ago was that? Like, in terms of, like, was it a few years ago? Or?
That was, I want to say that was about 4 or 5 years ago, I think.
So that's quite a long time ago. Yeah. So what, from that point onwards, got you better? Like, what do you incorporate day to day, and like to kind of like feel good about yourself? And
yeah, so that was, so when I finished there, so basically they refer you to your local GP, which will have like an on-site counsellor that comes in once a week or something like that, and then you just so you can actually continue on with it,
right.
Which is great.
Right.
But the issue I had was I had a really great relationship with my counsellor there, moved to the next one, and I just didn't feel it. So, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that person at all, but it was just I didn't really feel like not comfortable.
A connection, right?
Yeah, the connection. And I think if you don't have a connection, you're not going to open up. And then there's no point me going there every week, him asking me how I am, and me lying, which would have happened. Yeah, and you just go backwards. So I needed to. So obviously, I took the no judgment thing in terms of talking to someone I don't know. I put that as one part of it, and then which I don't recommend people do, Googling things in terms of mental health. You don't know where you're going to end up with that. So,
it's so true. It's going to get you down a rabbit hole that you can't get out of.
Yeah, but the common thing that came up on the thread was exercise. The common link between physical fitness and mental fitness together, which has been proven like so many times now. And I needed to try and find a physical activity that I wanted to do that would make me feel better. And walking was the one, and it's probably the most underrated exercise you can do. It's amazing because what you can do within a walk, you can't do within a run or a cycle or a football match or anything like that. It's just that time to think and be in the present without like being out of breath. Do you know what I mean? Like you can have a brisk walk for half an hour, and I've come up with all my sort of best ideas for the group whilst on a walk. Like and I think that's proven for a lot of people. You have such a creative space when you're walking.
That's so beautiful. I love that.
Yeah. So I put those two together, and that's how the group eventually started. Like I was working at the time, so it was sort of put on the back burner. So I was just doing my walks myself and things like that whilst I was working. And then obviously we got to lockdown, and then I lost all my work, which weirdly enough was a relief because I was at a point where I didn't want to do the work no more, and I was trying to find a way out, but I couldn't because of finances. I thought, like, I need the money, so I've got to do it. But then that was taken out of my hands, which was great in hindsight, looking back at it. And,
absolutely.
And then obviously during lockdown, I went back to mum's because I didn't want her to be on her own stuff, and I wanted to try on this stuff was going to last for. So I thought, well, at least we'll be together for it. And then obviously the idea, I took it off the shelf, the idea, and then it was a perfect time to start it, really.
That's amazing. I think, I know lockdown's it was super difficult, but actually, like you said, like people discover things like walking again, and you get so many ideas, like when you walk, don't you? Like it's just, especially if you're walking and something just pops to you, and like, it's just amazing. Like I've definitely had the same where I've been inspired, but I think it's totally underrated. I think more people definitely need to walk.
Definitely.
So basically the Proper Blokes Club came about during lockdown, is that correct?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, cool. And then, so tell me so you had an idea. What was the idea that you had that you wanted to kind of achieve?
Well, so the idea was like, it was just a real small local project because I thought to myself, I'm going to go back into coaching anyway. So let me just start something around my local area. Can I make a bit of a positive impact here? So we weren't allowed to meet anybody at the time. So I just created the Facebook page, and then I would do walks around my local area. And do little videos and just talk about stuff that I've been through and stuff like that, and try and encourage people to open up. And it had quite a good response. And it obviously, I'd be lying if I said it didn't help me out, because it did massively every walk I'd done. And then you sort of replicating that no judgment thing as well. You're talking to yourself really. You don't know who's watching the videos, but yeah, that helped massively. And then we had the break in lockdowns where we could start meeting people again. And then I put on a local Facebook group, like the SE16 group we've got around our area, and just said, look, this is what I'm doing. Do you fancy coming for a walk? Like, we'll see what happens. And in my head at the time, I thought like I was going to walk around the corner and there'd be thousands of men waiting, saying, I'm really like making a big impact here. And I got there and I was waiting 5 minutes, but no one's here yet. So I thought, oh, no one's going to come. And then one lad turned up, Jack, and then I thought, oh, it's only one lad. Like, I was a bit disheartened at first, but 5 minutes into the walk, like, it was amazing. I think we was out for about 5-6 hours. It was ridiculous. And we were just chatting away.
5-6 hours?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's great. So we've done the walk that we now do for the Summit group. So we've done that route, and then we just popped to the pub afterwards, had a couple of drinks, and then carried on the conversation. And it was great because we came out of it just both like we've released that physical weight from our shoulders because we've both really needed it.
So beautiful.
So we've done a little picture at the end, and then I posted in the group and said, "Look, one person did turn up. Anyone else want to come?"
That makes all the difference, though. You know, makes all the difference.
Yeah, definitely. No? And then next week, 2 more turned up, and then week after that, another 2, and it just kept growing from there, really.
That is amazing. I mean, I think it is disheartening sometimes, though, when you first time something out.
Definitely. Oh yeah.
But it sounds like that conversation was really needed. Like if you were to for that long, as well. And so now, like when you're walking, how many of you? Is it like quite varied about who turns up? Is it just whoever fancies it?
Yeah. So what we've got is basically. So each group has a WhatsApp group. So what we try and do, we try and create that same atmosphere of a safe, positive environment for you to talk if you want to. So it ain't a case of where you just come on a walk on a Thursday, and then if you're happy and there's nothing going on, you don't talk about anything. Friday something might happen. You don't want to wait a whole week for something to talk. So we've got that WhatsApp group. But in the Southwark one specifically, there's about 40 lads within that group.
Wow, that's amazing.
But we might have between 10 and 15 lads turn up each week for the walk. So some might come once a month, some might come every week. Like they vary. So it's a very relaxed, no pressure area where you can come in and out as much as you want. Do you know what I mean? It's completely up to you. And the good thing about it is an ongoing, I guess, service to a certain degree. There ain't an end point to it. So it ain't where you come for 10 weeks and you step back into the wild to live your life. It's like this is going to be around as long as we can.
Do you know what? I think it's so needed, and I think that's sport, because I think when you're suffering from mental health issues or you're feeling down or whatever it is, like loneliness is a killer, right? Like loneliness of not being able to speak about it to someone else is really massive, and it's showing that you'll create this community of people that it's important to them. It sounds like, and it sounds like you're getting regulars as well, which is amazing. So tell me, like, I mean, having talking to like lots of people, are there any sort of patterns that are occurring? Are people go through the similar sort of thing? Is it like what are generally sort of topics that people are feeling?
Sort of like so we have sort of all the issues from stress, anxiety, low mood, depression, wherever it may be. So that's what we all have in common, that we've all been to that point, but what's unique is our stories of how we've got there. So that's why it always keeps the conversation going. But yeah, they tend to be the ones that we deal with the most. And in terms of how people get there, probably the most common one is work-related stress. Obviously, like nowadays, people are just being worked like robots till they're discarded, and then you just replace. There doesn't seem to be any sort of empathy or emotion in any sort of workplace at the moment. You seem very disposable. Well, that's my
it's really
outlook
bad.
of it. Do you know what I mean?
But it's true. I think from on the face of it, companies and workplaces trying to do something, but you sort of wonder, is it just a tick box exercise, or are people getting deep into how people are feeling? Because I know working in the tech industry for 20 years, I hid myself. I hid what I felt. Never really told what I was going through. It'd come out in sickness, maybe. As well, like you maybe have a few mates that you could chat to and stuff, but even then it was really hard because you don't want to be judged either. But I think you're right. I think there's a lot more to be done in the workplaces, and the burnout happens, the stress out happens, and anxiety happens. So it sounds like does it leave them not wanting to like be in that space, or like just what's the effect that it has on them generally?
Well, we've had a few positive ones actually. There's been a few career changes come off the back of what we've
amazing.
So we've sort of we build the confidence up so much in some people that they end up just messaging their boss saying enough's enough. Do you know what I
That's
mean?
incredible.
And a few people just and it's been really positive for them. But I mean, they've had a bit of a time out, or they've restructured their work schedule, and it's just a matter of having a conversation with another person. And if you ask them, like, I'm at the point of burnout or whatever it may be, and they act negatively towards that, then it's probably not the place for you. Do you know what I mean? Why would you want to be in that environment? So so there's been some really good like sort of situations where people have changed careers, or they've taken on some extracurricular activities which make them feel better after all the work day. Do you know what I mean? So there's been quite a lot of positive stuff from it. Yeah.
That's incredible. I love that. And it's like, it feels like that support is ongoing as well, like the WhatsApp groups and that sort of stuff to keep people motivated and happy. So, I mean, obviously you're getting great publicity. You know, you're in The Guardian recently about what you're doing. Great picture of you and the lads as well, having a walk. And tell me, like, what's your kind of vision for the Proper Blokes Club? What is it that you want to achieve?
Well,
like, I know you got plans, man. Like, what are they?
Yeah, so obviously from the Southwark group, like we've got four other groups now. So we've got Greenwich, Wallington, Sutton, Finchley, and Woolwich at the moment,
Nice.
as well as Southwark. And we're launching in London Borough of Havering, Lambeth, and Westminster October. So each of them walks have exactly the same what that Southwark one's got. So you have between 10 and 15 lads of them. You have between 20 and 50 lads within the WhatsApp groups. And we're just trying to replicate that in every borough of London. We've registered it as a community interest company last month.
Oh, brilliant.
So I'm
That's
in the
so good to hear.
transition. We're in the transition period now of hopefully by sort of like mid next year latest, this would be my full-time work, so I can really focus on this. By getting funding and stuff like that. To really pursue it to go forward in other boroughs to make it go a little bit quicker. So that is the plan, is to go first of all conquer London and then go further afield. Yeah.
Well, you're definitely conquering London, that's for sure. Like, and if I see some blokes walking past me, some lads, I think I'll probably know what they're doing, which is amazing.
What borough are you based in?
I'm actually outside of London. I'm Buckinghamshire.
Oh, okay. So, well, you never know. It's a beautiful area around there, so there might be a walk around there. So.
It is. There's a lot of country walks, I have to say. Yeah. It is really nice. But I think it's having, and so, so you want to do London first and then maybe conquer the rest of the UK, and then any sort of plans to take it further?
Internationally?
Yeah, why not? Why not?
No, funny you should say that, actually, because we, so off that Guardian article, we had a lad from South Africa who read the article, just interested in starting one. I think Australia, there was one, and one from France. So we had that. One of the lads from the group that was one of the walk leaders is actually relocated back to Ireland now. So I guess we could say he wants to start one up there, so we could be going a bit international before we know it officially.
Love it.
But yeah, no, look at things like Park Run, for example. Do you know what I mean? This is
my word, it's so popular.
We're just a walking version of that, really. Do you know what I mean? If you think about it, so why couldn't something like this be everywhere? I think I was talking to the fella in Johannesburg. I've done a Zoom with him about it, and I said would one of the issues be cultural differences? Because I think what we find is like could we take one of these to certain countries that definitely men don't talk about stuff? Would it be a lot more difficult? I think London and things like, I don't know, like maybe like New York, like the cities that are a bit more ahead in terms of like making it real multicultural and really just open about things, it might be a lot easier. But could it work in somewhere like that? I don't know. I think would they be a little bit potentially. Everywhere's got to start some sort of movement, isn't they? So
absolutely, and I think that it's not just it's an issue globally, isn't it? Mental health issues. It's such a massive burden on our lives, and also the health services around the world as well. So, and actually different cultures are scared to maybe talk about it more than other cultures. I think you're right, but I think it's just that one step to kind of start stuff.
Definitely.
This is amazing. I'm so inspired, honestly. And I think I read somewhere as well that sort of female groups have also started to come about because of your change as well.
Yeah, so because the funny thing is, so we do a lot on social media, and that's where our main platform is, where we show people what we're doing and we engage with people on there. And I'd say probably 70% is female, like who comment and say what a good job that we're all doing. and stuff like that. And a lot of them say always they're an equivalent female group, and it's good now because a lot of the areas have them, so we can say, look, yeah, go to these guys. But if they don't, and I just say to them, look, like I started this up with one person, or it just takes one person to start something. It's free. You pick the time of the day whenever you can do it. If it's 20 minutes, an hour on a Wednesday, do it. Do you know what I mean? I'll definitely recommend anyone that's thinking about doing something like this, just do it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. You can't think about it too much, right? You sort of have to just
it's
get the idea and
it's
start
a
rolling.
really easy thing to do. It just comes down to whether you're comfortable enough chatting to people. And let me tell you now, I wasn't. I'm probably the most social, antisocial person going now. Like I love talking to new people, but beforehand I couldn't even imagine doing it.
No, it's scary, man. I'm not gonna lie. Like sharing your personal story is not easy to do at all, because you don't know how people are gonna react. But luckily, it's a positive thing that you're doing. It's so positive thing you're doing, and I can't wait for you to kind of just conquer the world basically with this. Do you know what I mean? So I think you will properly. But I have one last question for you, and I ask everyone this one is like, so how do you find the power within you to manage your mental health now and for the future as well? So what's it that you are going to do and keep doing for yourself?
Good question. I think just I'm trying to build a healthy routine. I'm still trying to do that now, which is proving quite difficult, but it's difficult. I'm putting things in front of me that shouldn't be. Do you know what I mean? But I think building a healthy routine, I'm slowly trying to get up a little bit earlier, and then nice. I want to get out in the mornings and try and do some more walks. I want to try and do some like reading and stuff like that. Take myself away from phones and technology, even just for an hour a day in the morning. Do you know what I mean? Like that's the power that I have. I can do that. Do you know what I mean? Like I just need to be a bit more positive making them decisions, but yeah, I think they're the sort of things I want to do. Just build a more healthy routine. I think just to push forward.
Do you know what? It's baby steps, isn't it? Really,
it is, definitely. Yeah.
It's easy for us to give people advice, but for ourselves, sometimes we neglect our own self-care.
Definitely,
I think routine is crucial actually to mental health. I think it's really important that you are able to do a routine that sets you up positively for the day.
Yeah, definitely.
As well, that sounds like you're trying to do that as well.
100%. Yeah, I'm trying.
Yeah,
we'll get there.
It takes time. It's like creating a habit, isn't it? Basically, but I think that's really wonderful. So, if anyone wanted to get in touch with you, what's the best way to kind of contact you?
So you've got our website, which is the properblokesclub.co.uk, and it has all the links on the bottom of that page for all our social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. So if you just type us in there, and it's got all of our contacts on there, so you can phone me, text me, email, Facebook, Twitter, any way you can. Send me a pigeon message if you want. Don't matter, I'll get you.
There's a lot of pigeons in London, so that could help. Yeah, definitely. Well, Scott, thank you so much. Your story is so inspirational, and I wish you all the luck in the world
to conquer
the world. It's my pleasure. So thank you.